How's everybody doing? Positive and productive, I hope. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sticking with me. Please share the content with friends, family, anybody that you think the content is relevant to. Remember, local elections are more important than national elections, but dollars are stronger than votes. They won't stop until we stop them. Liberation comes at a cost. Who's willing to pay for it? Ladies and gentlemen, as we jump into this really quickly, this is Piers Morgan, and he has the border czar Tom Holman on, and Pierce is going to phrase a good question, and I think it's a fair question, honestly. I like Tom Holman's response, but I think it actually could have been better. So I'm going to play this segment, and then I'm going to actually respond to Pierce's question, just because I think that it required a little bit more nuance than this, but let's go ahead and jump into this.
Virtually close that border in a dramatically short period of time. And then, if anything, you're not getting enough credit for that because of all the noise around some of the other initiatives. I think you deserve huge credit for that. I'm very happy to give you that. Most Americans I've spoken to say if somebody's in the country illegally, in other words, they're an undocumented person in the US, and they commit a crime, then they should be deported. In other words, there seems to be almost unanimous agreement. Where there is a disagreement with your strategy, and this seems to be supported by the polling I've seen, around 2/3 agree with what I'm about to say here, or certainly the way I'm heading in my thought process. Where they feel uncomfortable is with, for argument's sake, somebody who came in as an undocumented person 10 years ago. They built a life in the United States. They've got a job. They're working at Home Depot. They've got a couple of kids who've been born in America. They pay taxes. They contribute to society. They don't commit crimes. They're decent people who came for a better life. They just happen to be undocumented. When they see ICE employees running into Home Depot to see somebody like that, or the equivalent, that is where a line seems to be crossed for many Americans. Do you understand why people feel differently about that scenario to somebody who's there illegally who then commits a crime that's unconnected to their immigration status?
Well, look, I can tell you, I started border patrol in 1984, and I can tell you, and it's still this way today. Immigration enforcement has always been controversial. It's always been emotional. I get it, right? But people need to understand what the people who feel that way, many of them don't know the facts. Many of them don't have the data because the media is skewing the data every day. Every day I get up on the way to work, I look at 20 pages of data from the previous 24 hours. And the media they want to spin away from the truth. For instance, they say that most of the people ICE arrested are not criminals. False. I look at the numbers this morning. 70% of everybody ICE arrests is a criminal. Who are the other 30%? Many of them are national security threats with terrorist ties. Most of them don't have criminal histories because their whole goal is to lay low until they do the dirty deed, right? So we arrested thousands of turned Iowa, thousands of MS-13, thousands of national security threats that simply don't have criminal histories. Who are the other remaining 30%? Many of them are fugitives. These are people who had due process at great taxpayer expense. We put them in front of the judge. They lost their case. They're ordered to leave. When they didn't leave, they became a fugitive. So a lot of them are the 30%. So, it's immediately educate the American people on the facts that President Trump promised to prioritize public safety threats as national security threats, and that data proves that's exactly what we're doing. Now, let's look at the non-criminal, non-national security threats, non-fugitives. The message we can't not send the entire world is you can cross the border legally. It's a crime, don't worry about it. Go see an immigration judge or don't go see an immigration judge and just skip out, get an order removal. Don't worry about it. No one's looking for you. As long as you don't commit another crime beyond illegal entry, you're good to go. If that's the message we send to the whole world, you're never going to fix this problem.
Well, what about a different message? Okay, well, let me tweak your message.
And I want to stop it there. Maybe I'll put a link to the description in this video, in this segment. But let me answer this question. And I do like Tom's answer because, like Tom said, he's been doing this a long time and he's really fed up, right? When people have done this for decades, day in, day out, they see it through a lens that we probably will never see it from until we've walked a mile in their shoes. But to answer Pierce's question, he said basically, and I'm going to steel man it a little bit here. He said, what about those people who came into the border 10 years ago? They've established a life here. They've had kids here. They're working here. They have a family here. And the only crime that they've committed is coming into the country illegally. And I like what Tom alluded to. That's not the message we want to send. However, the point that I want to bring in is we can negate the fact that coming into the country illegally is a crime. But what a lot of people are not even looking at is that if you are in the country undocumented and you are working at Home Depot, that also is a crime because you're committing fraud, because you have to have a social security number or a resident alien ID number or a green card number in order to work legally and pay taxes in the United States. So if you're an undocumented immigrant and you're working, well, not only did you commit a crime by trespassing into the United States, you're now actually committing multiple crimes by committing felony and by committing felonious acts of tax evasion, identity theft, and a host of other crimes as well. So whether California, New York, and a few other of these liberal blue states, sanctuary cities, now sanctuary states, want to allocate taxpayer dollars for SNAP and EBT and different things like that. That's besides the point. When you're working in the United States, that's a federal issue. It's a state issue as well, but your social security number is going to be tied to your federal tax ID. And that right there, if you're working and you don't have documentation, that right there is a federal offense. So I think that was the other question or the other point that Tom should have phrased right there. So when we look at a lot of these undocumented aliens, illegal immigrants, however you want to phrase it, remember, we can phrase it as their only crime was coming into the country illegally, but if they're working into the country, well, then therefore by default they have to be committing identity theft and tax fraud. As always, y'all stay positive, y'all stay productive. Remember, local elections are more important than national elections, but dollars are stronger than votes. They won't stop until we stop them. Liberation comes at a cost. Who's willing to pay for it?